The smallest puppy ever born looked fragile, harmless, almost a miracle. But when the vet noticed hidden stitches in its belly, everything changed. Inside was a folded note so chilling that her hands shook. Within minutes, she dialed the FBI because this tiny pup carried a secret meant to kill. Before we start, make sure to hit like, share, and subscribe. And really, I'm curious, where are you watching from? Drop your country name in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories travel. The night was quiet on the small farm, the only sound the soft rustle of hay in the barn. John, the farmer, knelt beside his old shepherd as she gave birth to her litter. One by one, healthy pups tumbled into the world, squirming and yelping, their tiny bodies full of life. But then came the last. It was smaller than John's palm, so fragile it looked more like a mouse than a puppy. Its breaths were shallow, its body limp, and for a moment John thought it hadn't survived. His heart clenched. Then the tiniest whimper escaped its lips. Against all odds, it was alive. John gently lifted the pup, his calloused hands trembling. "You're a miracle," he whispered, wrapping it in a soft rag. But as he studied it closer, unease tugged at his mind. The puppy's body bore faint marks as though someone had already cut into it. Disturbed but desperate to save it, he rushed toward his truck. The vet had to see this immediately. The bell above the clinic door jingled as John rushed inside, clutching the tiny bundle against his chest. Dr. Hayes, the town's only veterinarian, immediately cleared a space on the examination table. She had seen countless puppies in her career, but when her eyes fell on this one, her expression tightened. The little creature was breathing weakly, its ribs showing through its skin. But it wasn't the frailty that made her pause. It was the faint, almost surgical line across its tiny belly. She leaned closer, her gloved fingers tracing the scar. "This isn't natural," she murmured. John blinked, confused. "What do you mean?" Dr. Hayes adjusted the light, her frown deepening. The stitches were too precise, too deliberate to be a birth defect. Someone had cut into this puppy before it ever reached her table. But why? And how had it survived? She glanced up at John, her voice steady but urgent. "This isn't just a weak puppy. Something was done to him, and I need to find out what." Dr. Hayes prepared her instruments, her hands moving with steady precision, though her pulse quickened beneath her calm. "Exterior?" John hovered nearby, clutching his hat, his face pale. "Will he make it?" he asked quietly. She didn't answer right away. Her focus was locked on the faint line of stitches crisscrossing the pup's belly. With delicate care, she cleaned the area and began to reopen the seam. The puppy let out a faint whimper, its tiny body trembling under the anesthetic. John winced, but Dr. Hayes pressed on, her instincts telling her this was no ordinary wound. Within moments, her scalpel touched something hard, something that had no place inside a newborn. She froze. Beneath the tissue was a tiny capsule, slick and foreign, carefully hidden within the pup's fragile body. Her breath caught in her throat as she lifted it out with tweezers. It was waterproof, sealed tight, no bigger than her fingernail. "Dear God," she whispered, staring at it. This wasn't medical. This was deliberate. Someone had used this puppy to smuggle something. Dr. Hayes placed the capsule beneath the examination light, her breath shallow as she carefully pried it open with a scalpel. The latch gave way with a faint click, and inside lay a tightly folded slip of paper, impossibly small, yet deliberately placed. Her hands shook as she used tweezers to unfold it. At first she expected gibberish, but the words were clear, written in jagged handwriting. A list of names, a series of numbers, and one chilling line: "Deliver without delay. Failure means death." The paper trembled in her grip, her throat tightening as the weight of what she held sank in. John leaned closer, his voice barely above a whisper. What is that doing inside a puppy?" His question hung in the sterile air, unanswered. Dr. Hayes forced herself to steady her hands, but her mind raced. This was no accident. Someone had sewn this inside deliberately, counting on the animal not surviving long enough for anyone to discover it. She exhaled sharply and reached for the phone. This was no longer just a veterinary case, this was criminal. The clinic door burst open less than an hour later, the sound of heavy boots echoing on the tile floor. 2 men in dark suits entered, their badges flashing under the fluorescent lights. Behind them, uniformed officers sealed off the building, ushering curious onlookers away from the windows. John stepped back, stunned. Dr. Hayes handed the capsule and the note to the lead agent, her hands still trembling. He scanned the paper, his expression hardening with every line. "This is part of an ongoing case," he muttered, folding it into an evidence bag. "We've been chasing fragments like this for months." His tone carried the gravity of something far larger than anyone in the room could grasp. John swallowed, nervously. "You're saying criminals put that inside the dog?" The agent met his eyes. "Not just criminals, a network. They've used animals before, but never like this." He turned sharply to his team. "Secure everything. No leaks." In that moment, the truth settled over the clinic like a storm. The smallest puppy ever born carried the key to something monstrous. The clinic, once filled with the quiet hum of machines, now felt like the center of a storm. Agents moved briskly, snapping photos, collecting samples, speaking in low, urgent tones. Dr. Hayes stood frozen beside the examination table, her eyes drifting back to the tiny puppy that had unknowingly carried a secret meant for monsters. The lead agent finally turned to her, lowering his voice. "What you found isn't random. For months we've tracked a ring smuggling coded messages through impossible means, paintings, food shipments, even live birds. But this," he glanced at the fragile pup, his jaw tight. "This is darker than anything we've seen." John's face drained of color. "They were willing to sacrifice him, just to send a note?" The agent nodded grimly. "That puppy was never meant to survive. Whoever sewed that capsule in expected him to die before anyone found it." He paused, meeting Dr. Hayes's horrified eyes. "But he didn't. And now, because of him, we finally have a lead." The following night, the quiet town transformed into a stage for something far larger than its borders. FBI vans lined the streets in silence, their lights dimmed. Agents in plain clothes slipped into position, radios buzzing softly with coded signals. At the center of it all sat the note, its cryptic instructions used as bait. From the clinic's window, Dr. Hayes watched nervously, the tiny puppy asleep in a basket beside her. John paced the floor, his fists clenched. "You're sure they'll come?" he whispered. "They'll come," the lead agent replied firmly, eyes locked on the dark road beyond. "They can't afford to lose a message like this." Hours dragged until headlights finally cut through the night. A black van rolled to a stop, and 2 shadowed figures stepped out, scanning the area. The tension snapped like a wire pulled. "Too tight. Now," the agent commanded. In a blur, agents swarmed, shouts echoing through the street. The suspects froze, caught in the trap, their network exposed. The smallest puppy had led them straight to giants of crime. When the dust settled, the suspects were led away in handcuffs, their van impounded, their secret ring dismantled. The note sewn inside a newborn had become their downfall, a mistake they never expected. For the FBI, it was a breakthrough. For John and Dr. Hayes, it was something far more personal. The puppy stirred weakly in his basket, tiny paws twitching, as if he were dreaming. Dr. Hayes scooped him gently into her arms, cradling him against her chest. "You were never supposed to survive," she whispered, tears stinging her eyes. "But you did, and you changed everything." The lead agent gave a rare smile. "He's not evidence anymore. He's yours, if you'll take him." John and Dr. Hayes exchanged a glance, the answer clear without words. This fragile creature, once used as a vessel for cruelty, was now a symbol of resilience. From that day forward, the smallest puppy ever born lived not as a victim, but as a hero. The little survivor who helped bring down giants.